Welcome to the Wrestle Story. As I noticed my mic was muted. This is awesome. Great. Awesome. Way to start. Great way to start. Think we're good now. All right, so as I said, I'm going to talk about Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC, and is the Big 12 dead? And what effect will this have on the rest of college football? I personally have been saying Oklahoma is going to be leaving the Big 12 since they had issues 10 years ago when Nebraska, Texas A&M, Colorado, Missouri all left the conference to go to greener pastures, a less confusing and a less violent atmosphere. I've said that it's going to happen. It was just a matter of when. It was a matter of whether they were going to take other teams with them. And obviously, this whole idea of Oklahoma and SEC is apparently has been going on. At least talks have been going on for some time. I know the reported talks were going on 6 months ago. I would say it's probably been longer than that. Having issues here with audio. All right. Hopefully, can you hear me now? Do I have audio? Do I have audio? Do I have audio? I hear you. All right, cool. Awesome. Wow, I had like no chat popping up here. That was weird. That's what happens when your daughter uses a stream PC. Yeah, I like you coming to the SC, not so much Texas. I think that the one thing about this is we are going to find out that cool. Yeah, I had no chat showing up here either, so I don't know what was going on. So I couldn't see whether anybody was typing. I thought it was just nobody was in here saying anything. Holy crap! What are you holy crapping for, Mrs. Gleen? How you doing, Zendo? So as I was saying, read your text. I did read my text. Okay, cool. Awesome. Awesome. So as I was saying, OU and Texas to the SEC. OU has been talking about doing this now for the past 10 years. It's finally happened. Not necessarily to the SEC, but just getting out of the Big 12. The other 8 members of the Big 12 really did nothing for Oklahoma. As evidenced by the reports that their contract is going to give each team half the amount of money as what they had when they had Oklahoma and Texas in the conference. So, obviously Oklahoma and Texas were carrying this conference. And they seem to have decided that they're done carrying the conference and decided to move to greener pastures. So they moved to the SEC. A lot of people have talked about, well, Texas has been getting beat by teams in the Big 12. Now they're going to go get beat by teams in the SEC and probably lose more. I do not think this is the case. I do believe that this will help out Texas in recruiting. The one problem Texas has had is I felt that they have not been coached well. And so it's a matter of getting a coach in there that is able to get the most out of the athletes, because they have, in games where they faced tougher competition, so to speak, outside of the Big 12, they've been competitive. and there's no reason that they couldn't have, you know, went through the Big 12. And when is this supposed to happen? Well, not sure yet. I'm suspecting that this is going to take place after this year. However, there's a lot of legal ramifications, a lot of talking, a lot of the Big 12 saying that no, you have your grant of rights to us until 2025. I think that lawyers will get involved and money will be exchanged, and I think they will be out before 2025. They seem to be. The other aspect of this is Texas is going to lose the Longhorn Network. There are reports that it is worth $160 million still on the contract. There are other reports that say that both Oklahoma and Texas would have to pay $80 million each to get out of the grant of rights, which ties both of them to the Big 12. If you figure if Texas were to pay both Oklahoma and Texas's fees to get out, if the Longhorn Network is going to die and it's going to be bought back out by ESPN, there's your $80 million for each school to leave and get out of the conference sooner than later. I can't see Kansas State, Iowa State, all those schools wanting to play Oklahoma for the next 4 years, knowing that they're leaving and they will be gone. I don't see it happening. So I would expect that this is going to happen after this academic school year. Next August, I would expect Oklahoma and Texas to be playing in the SEC. Zandel says, I feel this doesn't help OU and Texas. I feel it helps the whole SEC. Well, the one thing about it is going to the playoff with 12 teams, I think that this helps out Oklahoma and Texas. Simply because I think the SEC is going to get 3 or 4 teams in the playoffs every year with a 12-team format. The Big 12 is only getting 1 in. And even then, who knows? Maybe they get none in just because of the fact that, you know, if it's not Oklahoma or Texas that are winning the conference, we saw a couple years ago TCU, Baylor were both rated 4th and 5th going into the final poll. TCU went out and just destroyed whoever they played in the last game of the season by like 60 points. And they dropped 2 spots to drop out of the playoffs. So unless it's Oklahoma, Texas, I don't see the Big 12 getting teams into more than 1 team into the playoff. This allows Oklahoma and Texas to get into. They could lose 2-3 games and still get into the playoffs. This move, there's no doubt. This is what this is about. Knowing that the playoff is going to expand, knowing that they are going to have the opportunity in the SEC to lose 2 or 3 games and still have a shot at making the playoffs, is going to help them out down the road. Oklahoma, I think, will immediately come in, be competitive. They will. I mean, right now, I would say they're probably the second. If they went right now, they're the second or third best team in the conference, in the SEC, without a doubt. With the way they're recruiting on defense, which is what they've lacked, there's so much upside to them moving to the SEC as far as football goes. Now, in other sports, obviously you have softball for Oklahoma that's been really good. Basketball's been up and down. So, I mean, you know, the other sports will just benefit from being down in the SEC. Plus the fact there are recruits that have said that, well, if you had a better schedule, rather than playing Kansas State, Iowa State, if you were playing LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, we would be coming to your school, but you don't play them, and we don't really want to go play Iowa State and Kansas State, so we'll go somewhere else. And so they have lost recruits because of that. So I think that ultimately this is going to, in the long run, this is going to pay off huge for Oklahoma. I think in the long run, it's going to pay off huge for Texas. As long as Texas, like I said, They have the talent. They need the coaching to go with the talent. And once they get that, I think Texas will be just fine. How long it's going to take, I don't know. Is Sarkisian the one that's going to take them, to the next level? I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's all they have lacked because they've recruited pretty well. I mean, it's and I know Texas A&M has gained ground on them just because they're in the SEC. But I think that this is going to balance out for them. Now, what happens to the rest of the Big 12? Good question. Like I said, they're going to lose a ton of money by staying together. Now, the question is do they have landing spots somewhere else for each of them to go to be able to make more money? Because ultimately that's what this is about. It's about the money thing. I don't know. Do I think that they could go out and pull teams out of another conference? Possibly. I don't know why any other team would want to go to their conference, knowing the instability that is there, knowing that any one of those remaining 8 schools, if they had a landing spot in the SEC, the Pac-12, the ACC, or the Big Ten, they'd be gone. So we'll see. I think as of right now, probably staying together at least for the next 4 years might be the best for them, and see what happens after that. Other than that, I really don't know what else they can do. If I was them, I would go and try and pull in. I'd pull in the entire American Athletic Conference and say, hey, let's join forces, become one conference, and then they just have to work out, are they going to be the American Athletic or the Big 12? Now, the Big 12 does have, I believe they have autonomy rights, which means they are considered a Power 5 conference, and no matter who's in it. So if the American Athletic decided they wanted to just drop out and say, okay, we're bringing all our teams over, and we'll come to your conference and we'll work through it that way. I do not know. Again, it's going to come down to money, because would ESPN or Fox or CBS or any streaming rights, Amazon is reported to want to jump into the sporting industry and possibly into college sports themselves. So would they be willing to pay enough money to keep the 8 schools together and bring in another, bring the conference teams from another conference in? The Pac-12 can get some schools from, like, I don't know, the MAC. Zandel, I would say that, but again, it's the money thing. I don't think any school from the MAC is going to give them enough money, help pull in enough money for them to really pull anybody from the MAC. I think their options are, they're limited on their options. There's a couple schools from the American Athletic that they could pull in that I think would at least keep the money the same. There's a possibility they could go out west and get a team like Boise State or BYU. So I mean, there are a few options. They're limited in just like going and picking up, a couple teams out. So I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think they know what they're going to do yet. They could get a team like Navy or Army or Notre Dame. Well, Notre Dame is never leaving. Notre Dame is going to go. Notre Dame will stay independent forever. And if they do go to a conference, they'll be ACC, or if it came down to it, the Big Ten. Notre Dame is tied to the ACC till 2036, I believe, or 2033, something like that. So that they can't go anywhere. Again, it's the grant of rights thing. With all of Notre Dame's other sports in the ACC, I can't see them just saying, okay, we're just going to go and join another league for football for the next 14 years, 15 years. I don't think Notre Dame would happen. Army has talked about. I think Army, Navy, and Air Force would be cool to pull in, just because they draw a lot of eyes that the other teams wouldn't. and Army Navy big game is huge at the end of the year. I don't think that they'll pull enough money in to have ESPN go, hey, here, we'll pay you this extra money. Army has come out. Army's had the opportunity to go and be in like the American Athletic, and they have said that they prefer not to because they just can't be as competitive. And so the Army would be kind of, not that Army wouldn't do it. I'm sure if they said, okay, you're going to get $13 million or $15 million a year, where now you're only making 8, 7, then they would probably do it and jump right at it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Army's kind of a different beast with the military aspect of things. Navy is a different beast, but they've seem to be more willing to play some of the Power 5 schools, some of those schools that they wouldn't normally. Hey, doing, Volterra? Just dropped by to say hi. I'm bored. It's just me and my youngest brother right now. So yeah. So I mean, there's that. I don't know. What in the long run, I don't know what the Big 12 will do. Now, the big question is, how does this affect college sports in general? As of right now, I would say there's not going to be huge changes happening other than just the Big 12 being messed up and Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. There are rumors that the Big 10 and USC have been talking. If that happens, then we could see some teams from the Pac-12, because I think if USC were to jump ship, I think that that would be the first domino from the Pac-12 to kind of drop off, and I could see the probably 3 more teams from the Pac-12 joining the Big Ten. Now, again, the first thing that has to drop there is USC has to leave. A lot of people believe that, or a lot of the things I've seen is that they think if USC leaves, that there'll be 2 or 3 others, 4 others that will go with USC to join the Big Ten. Outside of that, I don't know what else will happen. I think West Virginia might have a landing spot. The ACC could potentially take them in. Outside of the rest of the Big 12, I think it's just done as far as trying to get into a power conference, because I don't see anybody really wanting to invite any of them in, and I don't know where else they would go. I mean, especially if the Pac-12 like implodes, then their options are really limited. Now you could potentially see a Pac-12, what's left of the Pac-12, if USC and then the other 2 to 4 schools go to the Big Ten, you could see the rest of the Pac-12 and the Big 12 combine and be together as a new conference. Again, this is down the road. I don't think it's going to take a long time for any of this to happen. I think probably within the next year or 2. Because there's a lot of TV rights that are coming up here in the next 3 or 4 years. So, and that's when everything breaks loose and things start to happen. As in, it says, I feel one day there is going to be a super conference, all the big schools in one conference. I think that's possible. I think the Big Ten schools will stay together just simply because of the education aspect. They do a lot of working together, which is why some of the Pac-12 schools may come in, because they're like-minded, and I know the Big Ten schools do a lot of working together. There's a AAU, which is the American Academic Union, or I don't know what it really is. Let me check and see here. So and there's a lot of schools that are part of this. There's a lot of schools that are part of this AAU. There's several Pac-12 schools that are part of the AAU, and so they work together. But I think that the Big 12, it's the Association of American Universities, is what it stands for, and so they all work together on different projects, different like science stuff and academic side of things. And so I could see them, some of the Pac-12 coming to the Big Ten, because I think the Big Ten even gets more money on top of that. I mean, when we're talking millions of dollars going to the schools for athletics, there's billions of dollars in these that they get for grants that go to the schools for these that are involved in the AAU. So I could see a lot of those like-minded schools going to the Big Ten. Again, I don't know where things are going to go. I just know that my Sooners are now headed to the SEC, out of the Big 12, which I've been saying for the last 10 years I want them out. And finally, it has happened. So, yeah. I mean, where this goes, I don't know. And how quickly, like I said, I think it's going to be within the next year. And at least the first two dominoes are going, OU and Texas. I think will happen in the next year. If not, it's going to be 2025 when it happens. If the Big 12 really says, no, we don't want to work with you, you're stuck here, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, keeping two teams that don't even want to be in your conference. So yeah. So that is Oklahoma, Texas to the SEC. The rest of college football kind of waiting and watching. And we'll see what happens. Hopefully, anybody that was in here enjoyed this. Zendel, thanks for stopping in. Mrs. Gleen, thanks for stopping in. Volterra, thanks for stopping in. And until next time, I'm Mr. Gleen. You can always check us out here on the Sports Story, or me on the Sports Story. You can go to the Wrestle Story and check out Mr. Gleen and Maven as we do a wrestling show Monday through Friday, talking about WWE and AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor. We talk about it all. Until the next time, I will see everybody. Everybody have a good evening, good rest of your weekend, and peace out, everybody.